I'd met her on a cold October evening. Her face, pale under the streetlights, had a kind of haunted beauty that drew me in. She introduced herself as Alice, and as we walked together, she spoke softly, her voice blending into the night's chill. I couldn't resist her pull. We began spending every evening together. I never really noticed where she lived or questioned why she only appeared when the sun dipped below the horizon. But the more time we spent, the colder I felt, my energy waning, my body growing weak. Alice seemed brighter with each passing day, almost vibrant. One night, I woke up gasping for breath, my room filled with the scent of rotting earth. In the shadows, Alice stood at the foot of my bed. Her face gaunt and hollow, her eyes glistening with hunger. Her lips parted, revealing a smile that was no longer beautiful but sharp and ravenous. "I'm so glad you invited me in," she whispered, stepping closer. Her hands, icy as death, wrapped around my wrists, pulling me under the covers as the room darkened. Now, I wait beside her, waiting for someone else to come along, drawn in by her haunted beauty. I was 19 when I met her at a party on the edge of town. She had a dark, magnetic allure, her eyes glinting with a strange intensity as she drew me into her orbit. Her laughter had a dangerous edge, a wildness I couldn't resist. We slipped away into an empty room, the air thick with the scent of incense and something darker. She pressed against me, her touch icy yet burning, leaving trails on my skin that felt like embers. Her voice whispered promises, words that made my heart race and my skin crawl. As we kissed, I felt her fingers digging into my back, harder than humanly possible. I opened my eyes and saw her face shifting, eyes black as night, teeth too sharp, smile too wide. I tried to pull away, but her grip tightened. "You wanted this, didn't you?" she whispered, voice echoing like distant thunder. Her nails bit deeper, drawing blood, binding me closer. Just as I felt myself slipping, someone knocked on the door, breaking the trance. She vanished, leaving only a lingering scent of sulfur. To this day, I wonder what she was, what she nearly turned me into. I'd known Jake since we were kids, a friendship that started in the woods behind our houses. He was always drawn to the darker things, stories about monsters, shadows lurking at night. I never thought much of it until people started disappearing. It began with animals. I found Jake once, deep in the woods, a stray cat in his hands. His eyes had this cold glint, something I'd never seen before, as he murmured something I couldn't hear. The cat's stillness disturbed me, but Jake just shrugged, laughing it off as a joke. Then a kid from our school went missing. And then another. Each time, Jake seemed less and less like the friend I grew up with. One night, he showed up at my house. Covered in mud, breathing hard, eyes wild. He asked if I'd come to the woods with him, that he needed help finishing something. I hesitated but followed him, a cold dread sinking into my stomach. When we reached a clearing, he pointed to a freshly dug pit and handed me a shovel. "Bury it," he said, his voice low, almost calm. I glanced down and saw a lifeless hand poking from the earth, and that's when I realized, Jake was smiling. I backed away, heart pounding, but he grabbed my arm, his grip like iron. "You're part of this now," he whispered, pulling me closer. His voice was steady, as though we were still just kids sharing a secret. That night, I buried what was left of the friendship I thought we had. I haven't seen Jake since, but sometimes, late at night, I feel eyes on me from the woods outside my window. I know it's him, waiting, hoping I'll keep his secrets buried. I knew Mason wasn't good for me. He had that reckless spark, the thrill seeker who never seemed to care who got hurt. But he was magnetic, always promising the night's next big thrill. One night, he led me to an old bridge on the edge of town. The structure was barely standing, creaking as we walked across the rotting wooden planks. Below us, the river swirled, dark and fast. Mason grinned at me, his eyes wild in the moonlight. "Let's jump," he said, as if it were the easiest thing in the world. I hesitated, feeling the icy air whip around us. It's not safe, Mason, I said, a tremor in my voice. But he just laughed, calling me weak, scared. He taunted me, leaning over the edge. Acting like he'd jump without a second thought. I should have turned back. But I stayed, rooted in place, feeling his words dig under my skin. When he saw me falter, his grin darkened. Suddenly, he lunged forward and gave me a hard shove. I screamed, arms flailing, but the water came up fast, swallowing me in its cold embrace. I hit the rocks beneath, pain ripping through me before everything went black. I woke up on the riverbank, drenched and broken, alone in the freezing night. Mason was gone, leaving me there, abandoned and aching. I dragged myself up, feeling each shattered bone, each bruise. Now, I wait at that bridge, night after night, cold and silent, hidden in the shadows. Sometimes I see people walking across, and sometimes they feel a push, a shove that sends them spiraling down, hearing my last scream. Just a little revenge, just a taste of what he left me with.